Welcome back, my name is Tomislav Tomasic and you're watching another 4-way woodturning project where each month Sam Angelo, Mike Peace, Richard Raffin and myself each turn our own specific version to a given task or a project. Now this month's project is a disc-shaped vase from 5 to 9 inches in diameter, and I've chosen a lovely blank of cherry around 3 inches thick, and we're going to include this lovely veneer here in a rather unusual way. So after watching this video, please check out Sam, Mike and Richard's version with the links in the video description. So let's head on to the lathe. So this is my cherry blank, like I said, 3 inches and 8 inches in diameter. So this can go on a, this is 3-in-1 screw chuck, and I'll shape this. This is the bottom, so we'll put a tenon, which later I can remove, but I'll shape this using spindle gouge for the beginning. Increase slowly speed. This is quite balanced blank, so 1300 RPM. Again, this is disc shape vase, so a long swooping curve from one side meeting at the middle, and then we have the top face similar to that. So here's a shallow tenon, and I'll project the curve. So when I remove the tenon, I'll only be left with roughly this size of a foot or a flat spot. And I'll true up diameter a little bit more. And I'll put roughly the center line around here. Doesn't have to be exact, although you can measure it if you want. Okay, that looks okay. Let's make a nice push cut with the ball gouge. There we go, so that's now 1500 RPM. Quite good. With a refiner, just refine this surface a little bit. And use it as a shear scraper. Okay, that's quite good. There's no need to chew this up. That will be done later. Just with the spindle gouge I'll actually remove some of the height here. Okay, so that's done from this side. It's quite a good surface, and I'll still round this over a little bit more when I get the top portion done. So I need to take this off. These are Richard Raffin step jaws in a VICMARK chuck. excellent jaws. And now I can shape the top, and then we'll play around with veneer, you'll see. So that's getting quite close. It's a little bit too high for this now size and proportion. So something like this. And actually I've never made a bud vase. Never got the need to make or a request, so this is interesting for me. Okay, so this is now sort of a disc shape, and what I'll do is just now blend this curve here. So what I'll do is again wrapping cuts, blending this on both sides. Okay, that doesn't look too bad, although you may not see it on a video very well. A little shear scraping with the spindle gouge, just to refine it a little bit. Now, I have in mind something to put here as a detail on the very intersection of these two curves, but before that I'm going to make this surface nice and clean using bow gouge, and let's make a little reverse curve here. Okay, that turned out quite good. I'm happy with that. And now what I'll do here in terms of a detail, I'll put a little bit bigger bead going straight in, going out, and roll it to the other side. Yeah, I kind of like this. I'll just with the light shear scraping just refine the bead a little bit. Okay, that looks quite good. Let's see if it's cut nice and clean. A little broken here, but the rest of it is super nice. So just refine this ever so slightly, and I can go with a shear scraper on this side. Now should be okay, I hope. Yeah, now it's nice and clean. Hardly need any sanding here, which is what I'm after. So The bottom is ready for sanding. When we flip it over, now we need to focus here on the veneer. Now just before I do that, I'll just refine this ever so slightly, this raised area where the hole will be for the flowers or whatever, using the refiner, just squeezing it into this reverse curve, and now I can move away. So that should be really good surface. Now for the veneer I'll be using is this rather lovely red color wood. Not sure which species it is. I had this at my father-in-law workshop just across the wall. He saved that for me, and yeah, we're going to use it here. Now I made a special cutter for that. Let me show you that as well. So this is from old wood turning chisel, which was carbon steel, not something special, but worked quite lovely for this application. And you can see here a little cutter that I made. This is all been done on a grinder, so this works as a small scraper, as you can see. And this thickness here at the very middle of the cutter is just the right thickness for the veneer, so that should leave me just enough of a groove to make a nice fit with the veneer. So now it's just a question of where I want to position that here on this profile here, which is quite visible. And let's see, we have this bark inclusion, like I said, rather annoyingly, and I will have to fill that in, but let's put maybe one band here and maybe one really close here. Should I make something in between? I'm not sure yet. Let's go with something like this. So we use this cutter as any other standard scraper. Raise the handle up and just slowly poke it in until the halfway point, which is somewhere around here. Do this here as well. Raise the rest up. Let's see if that's nice and clean. I need the sides of these to be nice and crisp, which they should be. I've done a few test cuts and I've sharpened this before this piece, and it does look good. So what I found is the way you want to cut the veneer so it's much easier to install in this blank is across the grain. So let me just show you this. So I've cut the veneers like this across the grain, and you just put them in like a little segment like this. Yeah. Should be a nice fit. It is. So just squeeze them in and then tear another piece. And I found using it like this from the end grain, it's much easier to fill this in and much faster as well, instead of like trying to bend this with the grain. And somebody said that we don't do segmented turning, so here it is for all the turners that like to turn segments, segmented bowls. This is for them. A little joke. So as you can imagine, this will take a little bit, so I'll just go every groove like this and fill that in. You just want to make sure that you're butting up to the previous veneer here. That looks quite good. Now you could use white glue and put a little bit of glue inside, press it in, leave it to dry out. Now I found, for the sake of the time and speed, I found that using a thin CA glue works quite lovely. So I go all the way around and put the CA glue in the corner. That will drip into groove, and this is again not a very deep groove, so this is quite enough to hold this veneer in. And use a quick set activator, and I do that on the inside as well. Just make sure you covered every corner so you don't have a chip out. Again, this is not structural by any means, so it doesn't have to be glued in with white glue, although you can do it, and it's a little bit maybe permanent solution, let's say. But once this sort of glaze over like this, the white color, it's already nice and set. And now I'll do all the other three grooves, and I'll show you how to trim this. Now a little tip here, this groove where I'm putting now these is ever so slightly too small. Now I could use a scraper again and just push it ever so slightly in a bit more. That will create a little wider groove, but what I found is it's better to have it snug than with a gap. So what I'm doing here, these three last pieces that I put in, I can't press it in further with my fingers, so I just lightly push them in as far as they will go, and then use a hammer to lightly tap on the, and since this is end grain, it's like a small wedge. It's going in quite nicely, and again, you don't tap this with a lot of force, so just a little bit to seat it in all the way. Works quite lovely. So and the final piece here, you want to trim it to fit. I first use roughly like this, and then I can trim it with a scalpel. Oops. That one should fit. It's a really tight fit. There we go. So I'll glue this second ring, and then we'll trim it so I can push this in, because this, in a way, it's a little bit harder for my rather big fingers to squeeze in. So you gotta love summer and flies and mosquitoes and everything, and you leave the door open so they can get out. Unless I close it, then they somehow get in. the shop and can't get out, but nevertheless they are really annoying creatures. So the way I trim this, because this is end grain filled in, I can break it off. It was if it was like a side grain with the grain here, then you have to be careful, because you could snap along the grain and it can go beneath the surface. So just lightly go like so. Any excess will break off and the rest we can sand away. But for now I just want to get rid of this excess so I can have more room for the fingers here. There we go. Okay, so I glued in every groove here, and what I'll do now is with the drill attachment just roughly sand this down up to a wood or close to it, where then I can use tools and it's much safer. So I just turn on the dust extractor. I can use a scraper or ball gouge, whatever I have here on hand, to trim this down. I'll use the left wing of the ball gouge. Here 12mm diameter drill bit, and just drill this, well, let's say 2-inch hole, and actually helps out if you tighten the chuck. Okay, that's deep enough. And now, just to make this a little bit more pretty, I'm going to taper this in slightly with the ball gouge. Much more inviting that way. Should we use a spindle gouge? Maybe a bit more. There we go. Now that's good, and it's a nice clean cut. So now I can sand the outside, these beads here, and then we can flip it over. So that's the sanding done on this face. So we can flip it around. Actually show you first how this looks. So now we can flip it around, and finish up the bottom. So but before that I need to make sort of a carrier for this curve here. So this will be the carrier. This is just a bowl that I have here for oil and stuff like that, and you can see here I've tested out the cutter, playing around a little bit. So I can put this in a chuck, and I'll just put a little paper towel here. And I'll put a little piece of wood here so I don't damage or go too deep here with the cone. And I'll just center it. That's pretty good. And with the spindle gouge I'll remove the foot here and go from this way as well. And that's good enough foot for this kind of item. Just blend the curve here. Oh, that really badly chip out here, so I need to address that. That feels like it's gone. A little bit more. I'll grab a bowl gouge with the left wing, just shear scrape it. The reason I went all the way up to here, I did drop this when I moved it around, and still that little indentation here, so I'll just go one more time. Luckily it only fell on that spot. Okay, that should be okay. Now I can sand this. Should be it in terms of sanding. Yeah, that's quite good. So I have this a little wood that's remaining in the middle, so I'll sand that with the drill, and then I'll show you how it looks. And here it is. So this is the bottom. I left it plain like this time, and this is the detail on the side here. If the camera will focus here, you see on the intersection, and star of the show here, lovely inlay, enough of the hole here to hold the flower, but you can see this is really lovely lines here. It's almost like it's with a marker and not inlay with the proper wood here. So not sure if the camera will focus it properly. I hope it will, but you can see that's really nice. And I think I've hold myself, I didn't go over the board with decoration, so I think it's just enough for this piece. Well, that's at least my opinion. So, and please don't forget to watch Sam, Mike and Richard's version. There are links to their videos in the video description. So once again, thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.